Still can't hear you, Matt. Go live. He has technical difficulties.
Live.
What's up, everybody?
Go ahead, Sean. Take it away, Sean. I'm gonna let you take it. Take it away, Sean. Take it away, Sean.
What's up, everybody? This your boy Sean, aka Stay Puft 1983, and I have joining with me today Matt Odom, the Macon Mangler himself, Dusty Brick Brown, and today we're gonna talk about some wrestling, old school wrestling, and we're gonna have a blast talking about this. I already got a topic that I want to start off with because when it comes to AEW, if you guys don't mind me starting off.
Go ahead, bro. Take it, man. Take it.
Do your thing, brother. Do your thing.
And shout out to Brock Bowden in the chat, first person in the chat. But I have not been watching AEW for the last 2 months. It feels like the excitement that they had when they started out and was going through the year, it just nosedived. And it all started, with the quarantine thing, and they was in Georgia doing their shows, and some of the shows was really good. But then once they came out of that and doing the Jacksonville stuff, I feel like slowly it's been just declining each episode, and the booking decisions they're making sometimes just baffles me. Like, why is the Lucha Bros not tag champions? Or what's up with Santana and Ortiz? They were hot tag teams when the company started out, and then now they're just right there along with the rest of them. They ain't really got much to do with them. They had to pair Lucha Bros with the Butcher and the Blade because they were really going nowhere. They wasn't going anywhere. And some of the booking decisions they're doing is just ridiculous. Like, every new guy they bring in, whether it's Lance Archer, whether it's Bruiser Brody, whether it's not Bruiser Brody, Brody Lee, sorry. But you got Cage. They all getting world title shots when nobody is going to buy them as winning the championship. So right off the bat, these guys are coming in, getting big time heat, and then lose to the champion and fall right back in line with the mid card. And it's like, that makes no sense on a booking standpoint. You want to build them up, get them to a point where by the time they're ready to challenge for the belt, you actually think they have a chance to win the belt. Whereas as soon as they challenge for the belt right off the bat when they first come in, they ain't winning because they still new. And it's just baffling what their booking decisions has done, and when you look at the top 3 champions are all ex-WWE guys. And we outside the tag team championships, when you had Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, and then you had Kenny Omega and Alec Page, nobody else out in the company has won championship belts. Now the tag belts is on the Revival or FTR, and it's like, I want to see the Lucha Bros do something, man. It's kind of disappointing where AEW is going with this whole movement of ex-WWE guys signing contracts and automatically getting pushed.
Sean, well, what you have, Sean, is you have typical WWE. This is a company that consistently has gotten in their way the last 20 years. You had a organic experience in AEW. I mean, organic. It was the closest thing that we've probably seen to WCW in a long time, to where you had wrestlers that were coming in. They had, no known past that you know of. You got guys that work hard. A couple of these guys you knew from Ring of Honor, a few from TNA, such and such. And these were gentlemen that could come in and hold their own. They were given clean scripts, nothing related to the main show. It was what's going on right here in front of you. We're going to build you up here, and then we're going to get you situated, and we'll boost you into WrestleMania. We'll boost you into Royal Rumble. We'll boost you into SummerSlam or whatever. Make a name for yourself, XYZ. Well, what is happening here is now the WWF says, okay, well, we got to go back, and we got to get some of these old guys that we're paying all this money to. We got to put them on this show and have them fight these guys, which waters down the entire product. The entire product has been watered down. And so now what you've got is you've basically got WWF Heat. You've got WrestleFest. You've got, you remember those old, Alfred, stop laughing when I say this. You remember those old Titan Coliseum home videos where they would have Lord Alfred Hayes doing the commentary? You have to rent them from the store. And it was
I rented a lot of those.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about, Sean. That's exactly what this show has become. It's become a TV tape show with wrestlers with either mid-carders or guys that really shouldn't even be competing for titles in the first place. And so I think when this pandemic hit, it completely destroyed everything that was already hanging on by a thread. So when you get put into a situation where you don't have your crowd there for you, it's like, okay, well, we can do this, we can experiment. And that's what they're doing. When I watched just a snippet of wrestling about 2 weeks ago, and I looked at it and I said, "Oh, I'm not missing anything," because before that, I hadn't watched. The last thing I watched was that Boneyard match. That was the last thing I watched, was that Boneyard match. Which I understand that wrestling at that time, pandemic is at an all-time high. We got to figure out what can we do. I can work with that. I can understand it. But then, when you have learned to navigate it, you're still doing things that you used to do. Therefore, nothing's changed. I talked to a gentleman about 3 weeks ago, and I told him, I said, I hate to say it, but I feel like I've outgrown wrestling. It's so bad that I feel like I've outgrown it. And you're talking to somebody who absolutely loves professional wrestling. So it's sad to say, man, until McMahon is away from it, and until Triple H can actually do what he wants to do, it's more or less, because people remember, Triple H started this with AEW. He was running this thing. This was his baby. He was cultivating. And then here comes Vince McMahon poking his hands, just like Jerry Jones. He's got to put his hands in there and start, fudging the cake. And what happens? Now you got what you got. And this is exactly what he's done for years. It's no different than when he bought WWF and he had WCW. You can't tell me when he bought WCW, he didn't have top talent on that roster. You can't tell me he did. You had a 5-time world champion. You had a 16-time world champion. Well, 16 at that time, too, if I'm mistaken. Either 15 or 16. You had Sting. You had Goldberg. You had all these A-list wrestlers sitting over there that you could work a program in. You didn't have to, and we'll get this later on, you didn't have to merge those companies, but because McMahon's ego, he has to put a stamp on it. And this is what he done with AEW. He's completely destroyed a product that was good. This is one of the main reasons why ROH, I can still watch that, because it's still the same product. I cannot watch ROH for about a year or two, turn it on, and it still feel like it's old. It's like I'm still stuck in that same mind frame of where it's still what I used to watch. Whereas if I watch AEW or any WWF program, I don't even. It's like picking up a bad comic series and then you jump it right into the middle of it. You don't know what's going on, have no clue, hadn't talked to anybody, you don't know anything. And that's what's happened with WWF. They've done it again, and this is a product that they've watered down, and they're gonna pay the price when this pandemic is over with. Sure, people are gonna come get back out because people are gonna want to get back in and enjoy themselves. But as far as viewership, man, they're gonna pay the price for this. So they better be trying to fix this before people can get back out.
To be honest, I have a hard time getting back into Ring of Honor myself because it's not what it used to be. Like, compared to when they had Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness and all them guys, Samoa Joe kicking ass and stuff, I feel like that level of competition ain't what it was back then for Ring of Honor into this era. It's just not the same for me.
But you know what? The sad part about that, Sean, is that even though as bad as it is, or it's not, I wouldn't necessarily say bad, I would just say it's just not it doesn't have that same feel it had when Samoa Joe and CM Punk and all them was there. It's still better than anything you watch on WWF. That's the sad part.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the sad part, is that you can find the most mediocre programming and put it up against WWF now, and it's still better than anything WWF puts out. I mean,
and that's sad.
Yeah,
that's extremely sad. Because we used to look forward to Monday nights, man.
I used to look forward to Saturday morning. I used to look forward to Saturday at 12. I used to look forward to Saturday at 6. And then Sundays at 3 for superstars. Now then you get Monday Night Raw, and then it's so hard for me to watch it because of what I grew up in. You know, it's just like you talk to your dad or whatever. You go, yeah, man, you know, football, you know, and your dad, oh man, football ain't nothing like it used to be. And then you know, all of us grew up in the 80s and 90s, so we saw this.
Yeah, we grew up with parents that saying, you know, football back in the 60s or 70s was tough, you know. Wrestling when Wahoo McDaniels fighting and all those guys, that was wrestling. I don't know what this is, but that was wrestling. It's like it's like that every generation.
Yep, and now we're in that generation of watching this and go, oh no, y'all completely missed the boat, because we watched wrestling at the highest apex that you can have, the highest. So the bar for us is always going to be up here. So, and McMahon knows this. He knows. See, everybody wanted to go back, like back during the Cena run. Everybody's like, oh man, you know the kids are the ones that's making this what it is. And I was like, well, who are paying for the kids to go watch this? The adults who watched the Monday Night Wars. So it's like, I'm not saying we got to have a bra and panty match every week. I'm just saying, hey, look, give us a little bit of a rough edge, build some good characters, allow these people to be themselves, and you'll never know what happened. That's why I like CM Punk so much when he came back. CM Punk was CM Punk. CM Punk was that was always CM Punk what you saw. You brought Samoa Joe over. They neutered him. This is the guy who's in TNA running the show for years. Brings him over.
Well, I'll stop you right there. He wasn't running the show on TNA because once Kurt Angle came in, his time was done.
Yeah, he threw him to the back. You're right.
They threw him to the back, and then by the time he got the title, he was ice cold. The fans wasn't as hyped for him they were 2 years prior. So they really hurt. Like, Samoa Joe's only a one-time TNA champion. That shouldn't even be the case.
And he was
meant to be like 7-8 years he was there.
That's ridiculous. Then you look at Kenny Omega. You got what's my boy that used to the tag team with Beer? What's the
Robert Roode and James Storm?
Brought in Robert Roode. They made this big ordeal about we got Robert Roode coming in.
Yeah, that glorious thing.
Yeah, you ruin him. You know,
they brought in James Storm for a cup of coffee, and he was back in TNA.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. You McMahon, these guys get talent all the time. I have no sympathy for WWE because they get talent, top grade talent, and then they get it, and then they throw it to the trash heap, and then they push Roman Reigns. And if it ain't Roman Reigns,
they finally turn heel after what? 4 years too damn late.
It's too late, man. Roman Reigns is a heel now, is of no use. It's just like John Cena. I told for years I said John Cena should have went back to his old heel status. And he went back to his heel status, it would have been the equivalent of Hogan going NWO. But no, they let it dry, all run its course. And so now it's just like it's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. McMahon is just as stubborn can be. And I know Al hadn't watched any wrestling in like 2 years, so that's why I hadn't even deferred to him. So because he has no clue what we even talking about. It's all like Morse code, Masonic talk.
Making Mangler?
See? Nothing to say. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. Yeah, I'll tell you what. We're gonna get Al involved here because I actually had a little course of action here for what we could do. Let's go to 1980s. Let's all go back to the 1980s. And who was your tag team? Who would you say was the tag team in the 1980s?
God, that's a lot.
It's a
tag teams back then was loaded on all sides. You could say the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldog, the Rock and Roll Express, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, the Brain Busters, LOD. What's that other team? You had the Fabulous Freebirds. You had the Fabulous Rougeos. There's so many great teams in the 80s. Like that is extremely loaded to think about your favorite team from the 80s. I mean, I personally lean towards the Hart Foundation, but I love the Demolition back in the late 80s when they had that awesome theme song and they just looked the badass. You know, with
which form of demolition you talking on?
The original, the original.
Okay.
All right, not when they got Legion of Doom and they say fuck demolition, let's just turn them into jabronis and shit like that. Nah, I'm talking axe and smash, just smashing dudes and with the forearms and the axle smashes and all that. Midnight Express. You know, there's so many great teams in the 80s.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, man. Probably one of my favorite tag teams in the 80s, man. Let me see. I mean, that's even when I think about it, it's hard. I mean, I enjoyed the Fabulous Freebirds, Heart Foundation. Absolutely love the Heart Foundation. I'm a huge Hitman fan. See who else there? You had Sting and Ultimate Warrior. They were a tag team back
in the Blade Runners.
Blade Runners in 87, 88. Let me see who else there. You had Rick Martel and Tito Santana.
Yeah, Strike Force.
You had them. The Mega Powers.
Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Akeem, the African Dream.
Akeem, the African Dream. Al, who you got over there in the 80s, man?
When I got on the mask, it's the Making Mangler. So I don't know my Making Mangler. The Making Mangler back in the day in the 80s, I used to like the Rock and Roll Express. And I used to like their teamwork because they were very technical and their double drop kick was a great finisher for people their size. I used to like Doom because they were black and they were vicious. And with Teddy Long by their side, it wasn't nothing nobody could do. Butch Reed talked trash and Ron Simmons, he did his thing in the ring. I also like the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette because he had that loaded tennis racket that he would go upside somebody's head with at any moment in time. Plus, he talked a bunch of trash. Those were my favorite tag teams back in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, tag team.
From the web.
Shut up.
You also had the Russians, you know, Koloff, Nikita Koloff, and Ivan Koloff.
The Russians again. I forgot all about them. But you know, back then, man, tag team wrestling, man, was an art. And you know that for a while in wrestling, Sean, they didn't even have tag teams. You know that, right? Like we're talking like 3 or 4 years ago. Well, I say probably no, I say a little bit longer than that. Probably like early 2000s or whatever. They were struggling trying to find tag teams.
You know why? Because they couldn't recuperate the magic that the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys did in 2000, 2001 with those TLC matches. Yeah. After those guys separated, it was hard for them to find teams like those three. And it was a struggle ever since.
I'll tell you what, man. The thing. Go ahead. Al.
Hey, man. I was gonna try to go the whole show with that mask.
I would go sit there and wait. I'm just sitting there looking like, bro, you got folks complaining about wearing masks. I know. That's why you go wear a mask the whole show.
My face was baking in that mask, man. But hey, man, you know what? The reason why, and thank you for joining, everybody. We appreciate you joining. But I'm gonna tell you the reason why tag teams suffer, in my honest opinion, is because if you look at wrestling over the last 10, 15 years or so, whenever a tag team actually came on the scene, regardless of what federation it was, unless it was something like Ring of Honor, which I used to watch some Ring of Honor back in the day when they first, got started. A lot of times, especially in the WWE, they'll get those tag teams, man. And if there was a glimmer that one of those guys in that tag team could be a solo, like it can be like a solo wrestler, like on his own, it was a wrap for that particular tag team. Tag teams never had any cohesiveness. And that's one of the main reasons why the WWE's tag team division, it absolutely sucked, where they were throwing anybody together. What was the name of that tag team they had with the manager? Her name was Cherry, and they dressed like they was from Greece. I can't remember.
Deuce and Domino.
I mean, come on, man. It's like they just started throwing crap together.
Jesus.
I mean, for real. Like, it was just, to me, it was like, man, and that was one of my favorite aspects. What's up, Chris?
What's happening, guys?
That was one of my favorite aspects of wrestling, more so than singles, because in my opinion, tag team matches were a lot more exciting than singles matches. That's just me. So I used to love watching, the Killer Bees before Wu-Tang, of course. The Mounties and the Bushwhackers and who was that Coco Beware tag team? I can't remember.
King Nappy and Dream one. No, that wasn't Coco Beware.
He tagged somebody.
He tagged with, I think it was Austin Corvell or something like that.
Something like that.
Prior to his WWF run.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty Young Things. That's what the name of the team was. Pretty Young Things.
Yeah. Man, I mean, back in those days, you had a mixture, man, and tag teams were more important per se than singles competitors and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I hate to say this, but the Midnight Rockers, Larry's boy, they were a pretty good tag team.
You tried to not the Rock.
No, the Midnight Rockers. That's what their name was before they became the Rockers.
Okay. I didn't realize.
Midnight Rockers. Back when they were in the before they came up
AWA.
They were in AWA. They called themselves the Midnight Rockers.
Right.
But they partied at midnight.
Exactly. That was, they were party boys. I mean, they were pretty boys. They wore like the little, the Jeff Jarrett ensemble, the one that he picked up back when he got in the WWE. And I mean, even WWE during that time frame, man, they had a solid tag team division. The WCW had a solid tag team division. AWA, UWF had a solid tag team division.
Bro, remember when the Steiners came on the scene?
Yeah,
they was suplexing dudes like crazy.
It was a whole different thing.
They were throwing folk around like bags of sugar.
I don't know. As far as tag team versus singles match, I feel like that's a matter of what era of wrestling you were in. Because I'm 40. I'll be 41 next week. But I grew up when WCW and WWF, were still two separate things, and it seemed like one was it's kind of like a Marvel DC thing. One mirrored the other one, but it seemed like WCW focused more on the individual wrestler, whereas WWE was all about the entertainment. So there was always more of the showy tag team matches that they had, because WWE was about bringing you wrestling entertainment, whereas WCW was about bringing you wrestling.
Yeah, that's how the South liked it.
Right, because I remember my dad taking me, because WCW was based here in Atlanta and Georgia. I remember my dad taking me to, watch the guys work out at the gyms that they used to do down here, because he knew a couple of them, because he grew up with a few of them. So I remember growing up with, sitting and watching wrestling with my dad, watching the Junkyard Dog, going out there. But then I also remember when I came into my own and watched wrestling, I watched more WWF because it was more readily available. WCW had started to fall off a little bit. It was considered your dad's wrestling, whereas WWF was considered the next generation of wrestling, at least until Vince McMahon bought them, and then it all just became one thing. But I grew up with the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I remember the guys that came before, Jake the Snake, which was, that whole idea was before I knew about gimmicks in wrestling anyway. So a guy with a snake coming, in a bag every time it came to the ring, to me was just, at the time, one of those things of just like, it seemed such an outlandish thing. Like, why does he carry a snake around with him? As
he's a snake.
Like, that's, it's just like, why does he have a snake in a bag like a hobo? He's just carrying it around with him. It seemed to be such an outlandish idea to me as a kid, that this guy carried a snake around with him. But yet guys like the Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage, they made sense. But the guy with the snake in the bag was a crazy idea to me.
Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior made sense. Exactly. But half the time they be just cutting these incoherent promos. Like, what?
Well, I mean,
especially the Warrior.
I mean, you got two fools cutting promos. You got two fools. Hey, let me stop for YouTube to demonetize this channel. That's about a ring time. Let me stop before I do that. But yeah, the thing about it, man, is that promos back then, you had two fools. You had the Macho Man, you had Ultimate Warrior. You didn't know what the hell Ultimate Warrior was talking about. You still don't know. Some folks know what the hell Macho Man was talking about. Some folks to this day still don't know what the hell Ultimate Warrior was talking about. I mean, they're talking about that on college campuses right now, discussing that stuff because, but back then, man, it was those larger than life personalities, that drew you in. And so when you look at what is Sean, not Sean, but Chris is hopping in. We talking about wrestling in the '80s right now, but back then, and that ties right into the '80s because that's when those gimmicks started really taking off. Because you remember, you watch AWA, NW, NWA, man, down here, man, we had, hey, this is Magnum TI versus Greg the Hammer Valentine, or you had
TA,
Magnum TA versus Barry Windham. I mean, there was just no fluff. There was no pyro.
It was serious wrestling.
Yeah,
it was actually wrestling.
Yeah,
when the Horsemen feuded with Dusty Rhodes, man, that shit that felt real. Even watching the old videos, like it felt real, and that's how it captures the imagination of a young kid that you watch this and. Like when they beat up Dusty in the streets and broke his arm with the bat.
Yeah.
Man, that was as real as the North versus the South. That was like a civil war.
Hey man, you know what? Hey Sean, you know what? You get a ton of points for that, man, because a lot of cats don't remember that, man, where the doggone Four Horsemen followed Dusty Rhodes to, I think at the time it was like the NWA home office or something. Mm-hmm. And man, it was a utility truck outside. Dusty Rhodes got out his car, man. The Four Horsemen bum rushed that joker, man, and tied him to that truck and just went to work on his arm, man. Dusty Rhodes screaming. I'm sitting there, man. I'm like 19 years old, like, don't do it to Dusty, please. Don't hurt him bad. Man, I'm sitting there crying, man, like that, because back then when kayfabe was like real strong, you didn't know no better, man, because you thought, they got some beef for real. They Bloods and Crips out here, man.
That's about it, man. Is they don't sell stuff to get you hooked in. Let's look at that. Let's use Dusty Rhodes. Look at Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. Look at that feud for years. Or let's use Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat because they wrestled for 2 years straight, just about it. And just how they got you into the feud itself. Mm-hmm. So you were invested emotionally. Wrestling now doesn't get you invested emotionally. No. It's like, I reckon I'll turn on. It's just I need something to pass time. Well, for anybody that's in the sports, you got enough to pass your time. Like me, I got enough to watch on TV. I don't have to watch this anymore. There's nothing that makes me want to watch it. Whereas back in, and we'll get to the 90s in a little bit, but back in the 90s where it was must-see TV. I'm on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, sitting there watching TV in the lounge on Carnival Cruise Line. So, I mean, it's completely void of having emotional attachment like what we used to have. Even in the 80s. I mean, let's look at when Legion of Doom showed up on the scene against the Horsemen. Yeah, hey man, who is this team coming in and whipping the Four Horsemen ass? Mm-hmm. That was one of the ass whoopings of all time. That ass whooping was so bad, my auntie remembers that ass whooping. She's 70 years old. Go ahead, Al.
And let's not forget the time where they feuded with Dusty Rhodes and took one of them spikes off them shoulder pads and allegedly, jabbed them in the eye. Y'all remember
that's when they turned them heel.
Yeah, man. Man, I'm talking about, boy, that just, because back then, they was all for blading.
That got Dusty in trouble. They got him in trouble. Yeah, because the network tried to censor the blood. They ain't want the blood showing. And Dusty defied them, did that whole thing.
Went a little too far.
That's what led to his exit. They stripped him up. Yeah, they stripped him of his booking power, and then soon later on they let him go. That's where he went to the WWF.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, and see, that's the thing, man. It's like I said, those emotional attachments, man. Like I remember, man, I hated the fucking Mountie. After he shot the Boss Man, I was like, man, fuck this dude, man. I was like, yo, bitch, ass would do that shit. You should have had that damn cow throw, shit like that used to get me. Or like Ric Flair, man. Like Ric Flair would walk around. He them fucking dirty ass moves he would do. You hold the rope. You think Ric Flair, you're like, oh, he got it, man. Then Ric Flair put some cheat shit and win. You be like, man, fuck this dude. Like if you go back and watch those old tapes, man, look at them old ladies out there, man. They fucking hated Ric Flair. Them old ladies hated him. They hated the dudes, man. But like you said, it was built in. Even I watched the other night. I sat down and I watched some old footage of the Undertaker, and I was just like, even as a kid, I didn't realize that was Mean Mark until somebody told me because of the way they had it made up, and I was like, that man is menacing, And then you start seeing those little bitty kids, the kids that's younger than me, because I was like 11 or 12 when he showed up in WWF. But when you see those younger kids like 4 and 3, and they're down there scared as hell because they think this is real, that was how it used to be. Dudes show up, and you were like, dude, who is this dude? And they could sell it.
I swear, when Undertaker delivered the tombstone, you thought the motherfucker was dead.
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 Yeah, I mean, you look at that. You look at that whole. You look at when Sting beat Ric Flair. People were emotionally attached to it. Sting. Oh, I'm coming off this leg injury. I'm coming back, and he wins the Great American Bash. You look at when Hogan beat Andre the Giant, which, by the way, he'd already been slammed by Kamala. With nobody ever brings that up. You never hear that shit before.
You always hear about the Hogan slam.
Yeah, you never hear about the Hogan slam. But Kamala had already slammed him one or two times before. And then you hear about that. And even like Kamala, like even as a heel, folk like Kamala, Abdullah the Butcher, these were heels of heels. These were like top of the line heels, man. People hated these dudes, man.
You know what the interesting thing about those two guys? They never stuck around long enough to look bad. They always worked various promotions, and they come in, do a big angle like Butcher did the big deal with Bruiser Brody back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. Then he'll go somewhere else to Puerto Rico and feud with Carlos Colon or feud with somebody else in another promotion. So they were like mainstays in multiple promotions. So that way, that's how they made their names.
Sean, you know what? And it's funny you bring that up too. And this ties back into what we talked about earlier, is that those promotions allowed for wrestlers to develop themselves. This is something I heard Dusty Rhodes say on the podcast, on the Steve Austin podcast several years ago. I gotta put it there. Where is it? Oh, you didn't know?
You didn't know.
But those old territories allow for guys to develop. I mean, look at it. AWA, with GWF, you had the WWF out in Texas. You had Tennessee, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You had all these. You had down in Florida. What was it down in Florida where y'all was at, Sean? It was the Florida. Was it Florida Gulf Coast Wrestling or something?
Florida Championship Wrestling.
Florida Championship Wrestling. You had
Championship Wrestling from Florida.
Yeah, you had that. Scott Hall down there. Oh, I mean, have y'all seen what Scott Hall used to look like before he was Scott Hall?
He looked like Magnum PI with the sash.
He looked like a brolic Magnum PI, like for real.
And then hear him talk, like, yeah, man, what's going on, bro? And it's just like, what?
It's like he was pasty back then before he got the tan and became the diamond stud.
Yeah, he dyed his hair. But that's what I'm saying, is that those even Hogan was in AWA. People forget Hogan was up there
Sterling Golden
sorted out. Terry Bollea, and then he was running around with what's my boy? Used to run around with him.
Ed Leslie,
Beefcake. That wasn't his name. It was supposed to be his quote unquote brother. Go ahead, Al.
Fun fact: a lot of people don't know this, but Hulk Hogan actually is from Augusta, Georgia.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
He was born and raised. I think he was in Augusta till maybe his teens.
Man.
Maybe he graduated. I'm not sure, but after that, I want to say he moved out to California. But Hulk Hogan is a Georgian, believe it or not.
They don't claim him.
You know what? Hey man, that remains to be seen.
I'm just saying, like that,
Hey man, ketchup and mustard is a Georgian, man. I don't really care about the Joker, man, but he's Georgian, man. I got.
They got plaques all over the place in Covington talking about they filmed Dukes of Hazzard here. Augusta's like, isn't Hulk Hogan from down here? No.
Yeah, I mean, and Brock brings up a great point here, man. This is how everybody stayed fresh back in the day. Territories allowed you to never get stale and overused in one position. Well, see, they were cross promoting these guys. These guys, they would wrestle over here, and then next Tuesday, he over here, he up here fighting Jerry Lawler in Tennessee.
Yep.
You got this dude here fighting, And then, he might come into WWF for a little bit, and he back on the road, he going, across, and it opened doors. Well, now what you got is you got a monopoly on wrestling. And that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing, because you're forced to conform to one way of training. And this is what's doomed them. And we'll get back to this too. This is what is doomed to WWF, is that they don't have talent that they can get from somewhere else that's been developed, and then bring this talent in and cultivate it. Well, now what you find themselves doing is they're bringing in talent and they're trying to make them what they want to make them. And then you're trying to scramble, trying to do that. And they've been doing that for the last 12 years, and they hadn't got them anywhere. But yeah, back in the day, man, back in the 80s, man, just wrestling was you could just see how wrestling, it started out where it was kind of a groundswell, and then it just took off. So by the time we got to the 90s, it was kind of like boom, especially on WCW.
Well, I will say that the 90s many considered, especially the mid-90s, the down period of wrestling.
Well, hey, that's the down period of WWF, because it was rough then, boy.
It was rough for WCW, man. The amount of money they lost in 93, the asinine decisions they did that year. Like,
Mentor?
You had the hottest tag team in the Hollywood Blondes, and you fucked that up big time.
Both of
them. Both of them. But I'm like, these guys had a program with the Horsemen. Great match, great promos. I'm like, you could see the star in them, and you're like, we need to break them up. They're getting too hot. I'm like, come on, man. They could have ran with that team for a year before they decided to split them up and go put Steve Austin as a single superstar. And then you bring in Hulk Hogan, you get the stale-ass character that by the time 1995 came, that whole fucking year sucked, to the point that the highlight of that year was Hogan being dry humped by the Giant and the Yeti.
Hey, don't forget about the monster truck. Don't forget about the monster truck, man.
The Giant falls over a fucking roof and don't die.
The monster truck. You remember the steel cages on top of each other? You remember that one?
The Tower of Doom. Tower of Doom.
You remember that, man? Trash.
How about Uncensored 96? Hogan and Macho Man against 8 motherfuckers, and they win.
Hey, what about Steve and the British Bulldog, man, out there on that beach?
But you see, it became 90s, like, wrestling decided to do like everything else in the 90s. And when you look at it, the 90s was all about gimmicks. Everything in the 90s was about some type of gimmick.
But
wrestling followed suit.
The White Castle of Fear.
Yeah. But you know what, man? What Chris, you're right. You know what? Because you look at those old gimmicks, man. You had Savio Vega. You had what was that dude? That was the S.A. Rios. I'll tell you what you see. You had the Godwins, and did you just look how? it was trash, man. Straight doo-doo. Trash. The talking. Hey,
the only thing that made WWF watchable was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
let's be real. Without those two, that company would have died in 1995 with the trash they were putting out.
All right,
Repo Man.
So what was your favorite WrestleMania in the 90s? What was your favorite one? I'm going 15. I'm going Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels. That's probably my favorite.
15?
I was a Steve Austin fan.
14, yeah.
So anything with Steve Austin, it was automatically had me, because I was all about, once you hit a glass, that was it was all about.
Yeah, I was a Stone. I was
a Stone Cold.
To this day,
Stone Cold, the Bionic Redneck.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah,
I was all about it.
I remember I didn't want to cheer Steve Austin because I was a huge Bret Hart fan. I was a big Bret Hart fan in the 90s, and when him and Austin had that feud, and Bret Hart told America to kiss his ass, I was like, I'm still your fan, Bret. Until that episode where Steve Austin beat him up in the ambulance, and I couldn't take it over. I was like, yo, this is just too entertaining, man.
My boy Steve Austin said, if you want to know what I think about the Hitman, put a letter S in front of his name. And boy, but see, I was a Steve Austin fan when he was in WCW.
Me too.
With the stun gun. That's one of my favorite finishers. And so I loved him. When they brought him in to make the Ringmaster, I was like, what the hell is this? What is this Ringmaster thing? And why is he doing $1 Million Dream? That's why I was just like, why is he even doing this? So it was amazing to watch that progression because you saw the glimpses of Steve Austin as he got ready to leave WCW start to show up in WWF because that attitude was the attitude he used to have before he left to go to WWF. So when they turned him loose,
he created that in ECW too. ECW was a huge part of it.
Yeah, in the ECW, and they turned him loose and say, "Man, do your thing." And then you started seeing how he became a rebel, and it started getting good, And so then, rest of it, as we know, is history. You look at guys like Shawn Michaels come out of here, Larry. I'm gonna give you a Shawn Michaels love for right now. You look at guys like Shawn Michaels come out of the Rockers, and he just completely takes off. I mean, just completely just goes out of the roof, and was a great wrestler. And see, these guys, like when you look at guys like that, like Shawn Michaels, these guys put legitimacy on titles, in a continental title. People forget that was an important title. That was the setup title. We all know what the setup title. But you look at guys like that. You look at guys like Mr. Perfect. You look at guys like the Hitman. Even Ultimate Warrior at one point. Guys get that belt, legitimize themselves as a wrestler, and then they go on.
And do something else. Yeah.
And do something else. Yeah. Or you look at guys like The Rock. The guys like The Rock who had floundered, double back around, get the belt, and then boom, his career takes off. Because we all know, we all heard this. We all know.
I had watched the Wrestling Bios video on The Rock and the Nation. Man, those were some good times when The Rock was with the Nation and how his character grew. I was like, man, I miss that era with The Rock. Because I always say that 98, 99 is my favorite years of The Rock when he had them Elvis sideburns and Versace shirts and all the $500 pair of shoes. I was like, The Rock was just swag before swag even became a common word. He was just killing it with the fashion and just embarrassing everybody else. I still remember when he rock bottomed the British Bulldog on dog shit.
And then he told Jericho, he said, "You were just on Monday Nitro wrestling some jabroni named Who?" Matter of fact, me and F saw that live. I get together. But that what I'm saying, man. Guys like that back in the day, man. The promos, I'm really big on promos. I've talked about this before on the show. Promos are what separates you from everybody else. Guys like, we bring it up to modern day. Guys like Bray Wyatt can cut promos. It's a lost art. It is a lost art. These guys can cut promos because, once again, we'll go all the way back to the territories. Guys worked on that stuff in territories, so they could come in, they could cut promos. I could sit here and watch WCW old promos from the NWA. I can watch promos all day long because they were actually good and would make you go, "Hey, I gotta go watch this match." I'm pretty sure Ric Flair's gonna cheat a fucking again to win this match, but I'm gonna pay to go watch this match.
You know why promos were so big? Because they had that stage, that studio stage, where the ring was right there. Once they done with the match, go straight to Shivani or Gordy Soul and get interviewed. They was able to get their points across before and after the match. That was a huge part of it back then. When you get interviewed by the guy right on the sidelines after you had a match. And then further other feuds. They get to talk about their opponent in the next show. Ric Flair talks shit about Dusty Rhodes or Kerry Von Erich. When he knows that he's going to go down to Texas and fight the Von Erichs. That huge match he had with Kerry, that was massive. And that was the thing about Ric Flair. He traveled all the territories and taked on top baby faces.
Yeah. Yep.
They also, I think it's a big difference too is when versus when you look at wrestling now versus wrestling back then. Wrestlers don't have a hype man anymore.
Nope.
Managers,
think about it. Right? They don't have managers. The Undertaker had the pallbearer. Right. Everybody had handlers. They had the dudes that were they hype man. They was they Flavor Flav. They got out there and got you either to love them or to hate them before they made their appearance on stage.
Ain't nobody more hype than the Mouth of the South.
Yeah, that damn megaphone. You read my mind.
Man.
Yeah, baby, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna do it today. Yeah, baby, we're gonna get it.
Man. Mouth of the South.
The Mouth of the South. Every time he came out with that megaphone, like, we're gonna do it today, baby. We're gonna win this match and we're gonna win the title. That's what we're gonna do.
But you know what? Back then, think about it, man. In the 80s and 90s, the actual Precious Paul,
baby.
it was the manager of a tag team, of a singles wrestler or stable. The manager was just as important as the actual wrestler, especially in a position when the wrestler didn't have like chops. Like, I mean, we're gonna fast forward to current Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons why they put Paulie Dangerously with him. He could actually talk on the mic, but he couldn't convey what needed to be said like Paul E does. Right. And you look at the situation, man. I mean, even though I can't stand him, Paul Bearer. I mean, even before he became Paul Bearer, he was Percy Pringle. And his job was to make you hate him enough to where when he was with a heel tag team or singles wrestler, by default, you hated them too.
You hated his partner.
They were just as important back then as the wrestler was, man. But you don't see that nowadays because it goes back to the whole kayfabe thing, man. You know, because back then the professional wrestling, I ain't gonna say it was sacred, but it was more emphasis put on the fact that it's real. Like because there was some wrestlers back in the day when they were out in public, they acted the same way that they did when they were in front of the screen. Yep. You know, now at home they could have been their regular self, but when you saw somebody in Kmart, like if you rolled up to Ric Flair at JC Penney, you know, you might get cussed out because he was supposed to be that was his persona. Yeah. But that whole, man, the aspect of managers, man, Freddie Blassie, we can't forget Bobby Heenan, Colonel
Rob Parker, man. Have our boys over here,
Parker, Colonel De Beers, hell, even Mr. Fuji,
Teddy Long.
You know what I'm saying? It was just so many different ones. Terry Reynolds.
You had the Slickster.
Exactly. You had the Slickster. You had Teddy Long. I mean, we want to go back to Doom and the Skyscrapers. He it's a lot of stuff that was built. Oh my God, yeah. Man, I read some stories about how Cool going to work on people, man. That was like crazy. But yeah, man, I actually enjoyed a lot of the managers back then more so. What's his face? The one crazy Kevin Sullivan. That dude actually had me thinking he was incredibly he was crazy.
Yeah, he is crazy.
You know, and I mean that was his shtick. You know, he was a wrestler.
I like Brock bringing up Sensational Sherry because she got down when it came to helping her man out. You know, whoever she managed.
Yeah, she was when it came down to her managing folks, man. You talk about somebody, man, that would do whatever it took for them to make sure they won that match. She's gonna do it. She's gonna get in there. She's gonna claw, scratch, whatever it needs to get done is gonna get done, and she's gonna ride just like woman. They're gonna ride or die. They're gonna ride or die. You know, they don't have them. They don't have managers like that anymore, man. And that's another lost art. It's a lost art of the manager. I can't tell you how many times I used to like hearing promos just because I like to hear the man, like Jim Cornette talking that trash, or you get even the Slickster. You know, Slick come on and he got that S curl,
sucking and jiving,
and dabbing. You know, and
that theme, that song is classic, man.
Yeah, you got the Slickster, you got Teddy Long, holla at your player. You got all of that, man. And now it's just like you relegate to these guys who can barely say their alphabet and you know can barely speak, and then they get out there and make fools of themselves. See, like a guy like Roman Reigns back in the day would have benefited from having a hype man. Yeah. He would have to have had a hype man, you know. And okay,
the classic promo. That classic promo.
Hey, get out my head, VV, because I was thinking about that. Soon as somebody brought Sherry up, like, man, Hulk Hogan, we coming for you.
Yeah, man. She put her hand right there. I got you, baby. I got you.
But the funny thing about that, not only was Booker T upset that he messed up, but Gene Oakland, the legendary Gene Oakland, just said, move on over to the next one. And Stevie Ray just stood there like, yeah, we coming for that.
Straight face. But you know that after he uttered the words, man, what was so funny to me watching it now is that it was like, how they had that thing, that little meme on the internet where they paused the screen and it was like it was at this moment he knew he fucked up.
Yeah.
That it was at that moment because he's like, man, I ain't gonna be working tomorrow.
You know what happened? But see, back then, these guys, no matter what happened, did not break their character, and that's the difference. Those guys, I'm telling you, man, I watched them on the Undertaker, man, and Undertaker stayed in that damn character. They say it's crazy now that he's even talking, because people are like, we didn't know this man could talk like this. We didn't know this man actually, could even, had this feeling about stuff, and open up and do an interview. They were like, because he stayed in character so for 30 years. That's a wrestler that needs to come out with a book. Now, he's a guy that needs to come out with a book that I read, because for 30 years, this guy held that same character outside that Jones kind of shit. He held that character.
American Bad.
That dirt road shit. And he held that thing to a T. Like when he became when he was the minister of darkness, man, that shit there, man, when he was on the road, there will be a sacrifice tonight. So you already knew somebody was gonna get their ass whipped. We don't know who it's gonna be, but somebody is about to get their ass whipped tonight. And then you look at promos, you look at guys like Vader. When Vader, you got guys like Big Bad Vader. These guys that looked the part, that played the part. That this dude is coming from Japan, so I know this man don't take no. If you've been wrestling Stan Hansen, I know he don't take no shit.
And
what I'm saying?
Especially with his eye hanging out.
Yeah. Anybody who wrestled Stan Hansen back in the day, you had to be fucking tough.
Right.
So, you get these guys coming in. You got guys like Nikita Koloff that look the part. You got guys like that can cut promos, and it just made for a pleasurable experience. Whereas today, it's like listening to cat scream all day long. I mean, that's how bad the product is. I hate to say it. You got people. That was one of the things. Out of all the things that hurt me the most about when Dusty Rhodes passed, was that I knew when Dusty Rhodes passed, the art of the promo was gonna be gone, because that was the only person. That's what he was there for. He was there to book talent and to train people how to talk. So I already knew. I said, oh, well, that's it for Roman Reigns. Then he in trouble, because that was the last person that could actually get him to cut a promo. Look at his son. His son learned how to cut a promo. Cody, and they wouldn't turn him loose. Well, he gets on his own. He takes everything he learned from his dad, and what does he do? Cut world-class promo. Look at Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho can cut his own promos without a problem.
No, he don't even need a script.
That's
the problem with promos in WWE, is that they script them so damn much that you're taking away the actual character of the person inside that. It's like, let these guys be their own. All you need to do is give them cliff notes. That's what Steve Austin said on his podcast. He's like, give a little cliff notes, he'll do the rest. Yeah.
Guy shouldn't have to talk his way through every single thing. Hey, we know you're fighting John Cena. Okay, well, give us enough to get us emotionally invested into it, and then we'll believe anything you say.
Right.
I heard Jim Ross say on a podcast. He said the problem that I see now, he said, is that wrestlers today, they build you up, and then they'll get to the match and lose with a schoolboy. He's like, that is fucking ridiculous. You build somebody all the way up, they get a schoolboy roll up 1, 2, 3, and you just stand there like, what the fuck just happened?
Because it's no longer. Oh, go ahead, Al.
You go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, because you have to realize it is now. Think about it. When we were all coming up, it was wrestling. It is now sports entertainment, and so now there's the individual wrestler and what he's trying to do for the character that he has created, the persona that he has. But then there's the overall arcing script that they have for the entire WWE. So yeah, he's working his way up to be a champion for whatever belt they got, and which I personally feel like they have too many, but that's a whole nother topic. But so he's working his way to go toward whatever belt, and he's trying to become this champion, and he could be cutting these great promos and putting himself out there like that. And then their overarching script has him losing to whatever character they want him to lose to, because they want this other wrestler to get the leg up before him. And that's where it becomes before where it was your skill defined where you landed on the ladder of success. It is now a matter of, social media likes and all the other stuff that weighs into whether or not you get the opportunity to, because now you can look at probably about a good 10 years ago, even you could look back and look at it and see if a Wrestlemania was coming and there was a belt on the line, you could determine who was going to win based off of which wrestler potentially had a movie coming out.
Yep.
And you knew, look at the many times The Rock reappeared in wrestling for WrestleMania against somebody, and because a new Jumanji was coming out or a new Fast and the Furious or whatever, and mysteriously, even though he ain't wrestled in forever, he'd come out of retirement and beat the brakes off of the dude who has the belt and win, and then he'd leave and go.
Yeah, I hated when they had him beat CM Punk for the title. I'm like, just so John Cena could get it back. That made no fucking sense. You do this once in a lifetime match between Rock and Cena, only for them to have a rematch for the title. For what? What do they need the title for? They're bigger than the belt. They don't need the belt.
Preach, brother, preach.
They don't need the title. It just made no fucking sense for The Rock to end CM Punk's title reign just so he could give the belt back to Cena. That was some bullshit.
Because it was all about ratings.
I told folks for years, and I'm coming right to you, but I'm gonna tell y'all, and this ain't gonna get monetized, so I'm gonna cut loose like I normally would. I told y'all for years, I told y'all for over a decade that John Cena won shit. Folks didn't believe me, and now they see that shit stain for what it is. I told y'all that John Cena ruined professional wrestling because the no selling master. Yeah, exactly. Hey, whoa, later fantastic. Emotions. That's right. We are emotionally invested into the WWF. Fucking ruined it for me in the 2000s with that John Cena shit, that 1, 2, 3, that 5 moves of death shit. I told folks that was gonna come back and bite them in the ass, and now people are starting to see it for what it is. You had a whole decade of wrestlers getting squashed. You remember when the Nexus showed up, Sean? Nexus showed up. You had 12, 13 top wrestlers. You had them all. They all fucking lost to John Cena in one night. Everybody's career outside of Bryan Danielson got ruined. And Bryan Danielson just barely held on because the fucking crowd wanted him to win the belt. That's the only reason why he was able to take off, because the crowd said, damn it, this is what we want. This is what we paying. Give it to us. And see, now you got your boy Cena. Now he's on the way. I want to be an actor. See, this is the shit he should have been doing a long time ago. I say he should have been trying to act years ago, but he wanted to prove a point that I cannot do with The Rock. I can stay 24 hours, work full time, and go do TV. Now you're finding out that, you know what, I should have did this a long time ago. Yeah, homeboy, you did like Hogan. You came in and you played that role where you wouldn't sell to nobody, just like Hogan. Hogan stayed in wrestling for 50 years longer than what he should have been in it. Yep, Ric Flair too. These are guys that should have been out the door. They should have been grooming new talent. You should have had guys coming up through the ranks. John Cena should have been grooming guys. You got, like you said, Sean, you got guys like John Cena out there beating The Rock 2 out in matches that shouldn't. You know damn well he shouldn't have been beating The Rock in. You got John Cena. You have guys like Umaga show up. Y'all give me a whole program with Umaga for a whole year. Y'all build this man up high as a skyscraper, and then he lose and never to be hurt. Kill the man. Literally, he beat the man and killed him. I've never, to this day, I've never seen any shit like that. You know, and see, and I'm telling you, guys like that can't for all that shit they talk about with Hulk Hogan in the 90s. You remember all that stuff that you say about Hulk Hogan in NWO, how he wouldn't loot nobody. John Cena was just as bad. John Cena was just as bad, if not worse. And that's what has killed wrestling. Folks like that have drug it through the mud. That horse is screaming. That horse is gasping for air, and now it is withering away. And I blame John Cena. And I told y'all, John Cena won shit. And to this day, I'll go when I get off on this podcast with y'all and get on the one with G. I still have the same attitude that John Cena ain't shit.
You know what? I agree with you 1,000%. There's one name that you did not mention out of all the list of bodies that John Cena has in his weight, and that was my favorite. You know who I'm about to say?
Oh, Bray Wyatt. Yeah, Bray Wyatt. That was another one. I'm sorry about that. They built Bray Wyatt up. They brought him in. Listen, Bray Wyatt came in with one of the best promos I had seen in 15 years. Outside of some shit I seen with Sting. That's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. Is
Look,
that
you see what C Woods just said? I remember being pissed off at that.
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that. Yeah, he's right. See, John Cena was slaying people. Hey, I'll give you a list of guys. You know what? Let's just go ahead and move it out.
Before you get that list, let me go and say my pieces. I'm gonna let you have whatever you need. But I was pissed off because of the fact, like you said, they built Bray Wyatt up. Bray Wyatt, in my opinion, was the closest to kayfabe back in the 80s and the 90s that you will ever get, in my honest opinion. That man had because of course his dad was Mike Rotunda and Bear Windham, all of them, so he had the tools to do what he needed to do. This man came back twice. What's up, G-Man? This man came back twice, man, because remember, he was in the Nexus under Husky Harris. He got dealt with by John Cena then. That man took some time off. He developed his own gimmick. He came back with the Wyatt family. That dude had people in the audience captivated. I can remember watching vignettes when they was boosting him up, showing them old clips of them out in the woods and the bayou and stuff. It was folks like, who is this dude? That man showed up. They're here. Lights go out. Next thing you know, him and the Wyatt family coming down with that. And I love that song, man. I don't know who sang it. But anyway, come down the aisle with that lantern, man, over a period of time, man. Them lights got dark, man. You didn't see nothing but cell phones everywhere. That man had the crowd in the palm of his hand. That man, and I say this to this very day, and I'm about to end. Bray Wyatt should have been a successor to the Undertaker.
Yep.
He should have been a successor to the Undertaker. That man had the capabilities to express himself on the mic. Because whenever that Joker talked, you could hear a pin drop in the arena. Nobody said nothing. When he got in the ring, and this is one of the most important things that's missing out in current wrestling today, is the ability to actually tell a story while you're wrestling. He could do that too. And then on top of that, he had a pretty nice looking finisher. So you got all this stuff, and then here comes John Cena, and it's like, man, John Cena finally about to put somebody over, man. Praise God. This is gonna be a wonderful, blessed day. That man beat Bray Wyatt 2 or 3 times straight.
You know what? I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna hop right on this right here. Oh, what my brother Vigilante is talking about right now. ECW. I remember that night like it was yesterday. To this day, I say if RVD had not beat John Cena that night, because I know how Sean, you can start laughing because I know how y'all New Yorkers roll. When y'all say y'all gonna do something, y'all stand behind it, and especially in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Oh, yeah.
If he would have John Cena would have beat, they would have rioted. They had no choice but to put him over that night because they would have rioted. But I'm gonna go to. I had somebody else on the list too. You remember? He get a pass. You don't hear his name too often. But this was another no-selling son of a gun. We got ladies in the chat, so I won't say what I want to say. I will be reputable.
Hey,
I will be reputable tonight. But
kill me, I'll tell you.
But not John Cena, but Triple H is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Triple H wouldn't sell shit either. This is another dude that it was always drop the title.
Don't get me started on WrestleMania 19, bro.
That whole Booker T shit. To this day, I remember sitting over there. I think we was all sitting over there at Hooters, and Booker T should have won that match. To this day, they tell me, "Oh, Booker T was hurt." Hey man, y'all got cats that like Brock Lesnar fucking wrestle once a decade, and y'all gonna tell me Booker T couldn't rehab?
And mind you, this was after Triple H put up 2 of the worst matches against a blown-up Scott Steiner.
Yep.
After the first match, they shouldn't even bother with a rematch.
Yeah. Yep. I'm telling you, man. Somebody see what Brother Woodard say. He said, "See that? Cena couldn't even put the man over clean." No, he right. Triple H was the same way. Triple H getting out of folk finishing holes, man. Yeah, but who was that put a finishing hole on Triple H on pay per view? And it was Cena. And I was just like, what the fuck? It just gets something like ain't nothing. Like we we playing SmackDown versus Raw, so shit like that. I'm like, what is this? These guys had no Batista, another one, wouldn't sell. I like him. I like Batista as a guy, but wouldn't sell. No, it took him forever to sell shit for years. The guys like that, man, that's the difference. When you look at older wrestlers and then you bring up the modern guys back in the day, you get the finishing move put on you. You got the fucking finishing move put on you. That's it.
Over.
How many folks were kicking out of the tombstone back in the day?
You know what? That started thanks to The Rock and Stone Cold kicking out so many of their finishers that it led to other matches mimicking that. I mean, The Rock will hit Stone Cold with a rock bottom. Austin kicks out. Stone Cold hit Rock with a stunner. Rock kicks out. That WrestleMania 17 match, as great as it was, that match pretty much set the future of wrestling when it came to finishers being kicked out of. Because ever since then, finishers become irrelevant. Like, you got to hit 3 of them to win the match.
Yeah. He's got up with 3 F5s. No, it's 30 suplexes. It's 55 suplexes.
Don't make no sense.
Hey, man. Triple H, you know what? Bubba Buddha is right on the money right here. Triple H went shit for this. When Sting, all these years, Sting wanted to get to WrestleMania. Sting gets to WrestleMania, fucking lose to Triple H. I hated that. I absolutely hate it. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna fix it. We'll bring him back at Survivor Series, and then we'll let him put him over. That's shit to me, man. I ain't studying that.
I kind of wish that I kind of wish that Ultimate Warrior would have no-sold the pedigree before he died and beat up Triple H, man.
Yeah, I mean, bro, Triple H, man, that dude there, man, it was some time, I especially when he was with Evolution, man. Oh man, nothing was worse than on a Sunday after the pay-per-view, you turn in, and then you got to see Evolution is a mystery. When I made the moon, and then you got Triple H coming out with that damn belt. And then you got that same promo.
How about when he won that Elimination Chamber match with a torn groin?
That's what I'm saying. You got that bullshit. You got him not putting over Shelton Benjamin. Y'all forget about that one.
Oh,
Shelton
man.
Benjamin fucking won the belt. He was another one, never held the belt. It's an absolute disgrace, man. Absolute disgrace. That he didn't get put over. And then his career was pretty much never the same after that night, after that Monday night. And see, these are times that when you look at matches like that, I mean, Shelton Benjamin put his ass into that match. Just allow the man to win to build him up. And if you want to get the belt back at a pay-per-view, oh well. But build the fucking man up. This is why I said WWF had talent that they just completely did not cultivate.
And see what it nails it on the head, man.
Yeah. He said, I feel like Vince and Hunter have a thing for former. They do. And this is go all right. So let's just go right into this. So you buy out WCW. All right. Me and Al remember this vividly. I remember this just, we got off work that night and we saw this shit. We saw this shit live. And we get off work, we come home. Oh, it's been bought out. Well, then you look, okay, you start in your mind, you start thinking, okay, all of the creative things that you can do. All right. Shane has his own baby. Maybe Shane, they got some kind of deal where they'll keep Nitro on TBS. No, we buying the whole fucking thing out. And we're going to get all the good wrestlers over there, but we're going to make sure we bring Shinjak and O'Hare. We're going to make sure we bring the lowest of the low over there outside of DDP. And then you bring DDP and you make him a damn stalker. This is a man who has built himself up. I have the utmost respect for DDP for one of the main reasons why, because how old he was when he became a professional wrestler. This guy came from a valet to train himself, and then he became a wrestler. I was a damn good wrestler.
I was about to talk about it because I one of my things. I respect Dom because he took being a wrestler serious. He's the only wrestler I know who basically went in the lab, went in the gym, and figured out 54 different ways from anywhere in the ring he could put you in his finisher. Nobody else had that dedication to figuring out how to be able to use, because now we just got lame ass motherfuckers like Randy Orton just sitting there like waiting for you to stumble into some shit.
Yeah,
you know.
I was just about to say that, Chris. I was just about to say,
You know.
Randy Orton's finisher is just a motherfucker jumping right into it. Whereas
Right.
DDP used variety of ways to turn you into a diamond cutter.
They see the shit coming. You be sitting there watching wrestling, man. You be like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting it to come from now. You know, you didn't see it coming.
You'd blink back in the day, and next thing you know, a finisher would happen, and you'd be like, "How in the world did he put him in that?" They were across the ring from each other, and he somehow bounced off the right turnbuckle and did some kind of front leg sweep, and next thing you know, he put the man into his finisher. And now it's just like they slip on banana peels and fall into your lap to give you the finisher. Oh, there it is. Oh.
You know, even if you bring up a good point, man. Even that, man, the art of the finish. These guys don't have legit finishers, man. I think probably the last, and thinking about it, this is the last person I know that had a good legit finisher, and that was and TC was on the panel. You know, the Canadian Destroyer,
Peter Williams.
Peter Williams. That's the last person I know that had a finish that would really stand up.
That fucking move is being killed.
Yeah.
Dustin Rhodes is doing that move.
Yeah.
Fucking Adam Cole doing that move. It's ridiculous how that move went from a deadly finisher, even if it's choreographed, because the other guy got to jump with you. But the fact that everybody and their mama is doing that move now, even fucking what's the name from the Rock and Roll Express is doing that move. I'm like, yo, old ass doing that shit. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. He's doing that move.
Remember when the 5-star frog splash first showed up?
Yeah. Yep.
And it was deep. Like when you saw somebody do it, you knew the match was over. This was
you talk about the 5-star frog. So what about the shooting star press?
Man, you knew again. You knew Jimmy Superfly Snuka. When people like that.
Yeah, they go to the top rope. You know something to go down.
That's it. You know this match is about to be over.
If you see Captain Jack on the top of a cage, somebody about to get their ass. Something bad for to happen.
He would have. He hit it right on the nail. Super kick. I'm sick of the super kick, man.
I mean,
I'm so sick of it.
That move is one of the most overused moves in the history of professional wrestling, man.
The Young Bucks use that move 90% of their matches. Super kick. It's a super kick party. Get the fuck out of here, man.
And it's not even. It used to be a great move, but the super kick is not. When in the grand scheme of all of wrestling history, when you look back at all of the finishes that have been done, unless you have a glass jaw, in which case you should not be in wrestling to begin with, the super kick is not the move that should cause you to lose.
Unless you Shawn Michaels in the 90s. That's what I don't think.
Unless you Shawn Michaels in the 90s.
And to me, he's the only one I can see hit that move and win it because he established that move.
Yeah, but you know what I used to like about when Shawn Michaels used that move back in the day, man, was when it would come out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere. That was the thing I used to love about it the most, where you be in the middle of bam, you be like, oh shit, Shawn Michaels 1, 2, 3, Now it's like, everybody uses it. The spear is another overused move.
Yeah.
We all know, me and Al know who originated the spear. Larry, I'm going to say Goldberg.
Atlanta Falcon himself.
And then Edge took it on. And then after that, now you got your boy Roman Reigns.
Right.
You got your boy Roman Reigns.
I thought Roman, see now, because now it's like an evolution of a mutant, because now everybody got like two finishes. Don't Roman got the spear and the Superman punch? Like, take your pick, man.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Superman punch.
The Superman punch. Like, come on, man.
It's like the art of the finish. Like I tell you, the art of these guys don't have legit finishes anymore.
Managers, finishes, promos.
You working on skeleton. It's a skeleton. Yeah. And it's just like, well, let's just make up shit as we go. And that's where we at now. And that's why the product is so bad. Because they completely lost all identity of what got them to where they are.
And Matt, I'm gonna start it, but I cannot stand the high spots where dudes are just sitting there looking at the motherfucker climbing the top rope just to jump on him. That it burns a hole in my brain when you clearly see this man climbing up, and then you get a guy back there. You're like, you gotta wait for him to jump. Any small sane person will move the fuck out of the way and watch him crash and burn.
Yep. 1, 2, 3. You know, back in the day, man, cat go to the top rope and miss, man. It was 1, 2, 3. It's just that simple.
Your mistake.
Easy. Yeah, no, that's it. You miss it, that's it. Boom. 1, 2, 3. You know, so Jeff says the DDT is overused. You know, DDT back in the day, man, that was somebody's ass can put on. You know, if somebody DDT'd you back, if Jake the Snake DDT'd you back in the day,
it was over.
That was it.
Look what he did to Ricky Steamboat on the concrete.
Yep. Go ahead, Al.
Brock also brought up Chris Adams, which I was thinking about too. He had a vicious super kick back in the day, because you know he used that as a finisher. Gentleman Chris Adams.
Yeah, Mobius.
The DDT, I've only seen 3 people that actually had a convincing looking DDT. One was Jake the Snake, because the way he executed it, he was taking you down like he was trying to kill you the first time. Like you hit the mat, you dead. Ain't no 1, 2, 3. It's like they about to call Paul Bearer them out there to get you. Like it's like that. Second person I have to say was Raven. He had a vicious DDT.
Oh yeah, man, I forgot about
Even
that.
DDT,
Even for, and as much as y'all give me hell about this dude, you know who I'm finna say next. That Spike DDT Gangrel had though, man, that joker right there was vicious looking, man. I'm telling you, people not, man, y'all can say what y'all want about Gangrel, man, but that dude had that DDT, that Spike DDT, that Impaler, it was vicious. But yeah, Jeff Wright, man.
There's a lot of moves that used to be finishes back in the day are just now normal moves.
Yep. I mean, look at running clotheslines, man. You know,
Powerbomb.
Powerbomb. Oh man, the powerbomb is another overused move, man. You know, back in the day, man, powerbomb was considered high risk. You know, that was a high risk move. That was legit, you know, you had to be a professional to use that move.
Shoot, Vader broke men's backs.
Yeah, you know, you remember we had to catch this Jack out there on that concrete, man. Y'all remember that shit? You know, and Catty Jack said,
and then Psycho still used to powerbomb jobbers to hell.
Oh man. Hey, if your name was Skip Jones from Hollywood, Florida, your ass was gonna pay the price, boy. You know,
it's a wrap.
I remember a story, man, where Mick Foley was saying after he came back from that injury from that powerbomb, he said he said, hey man, the first match that they tried to put him in was a tag team match with the Steiner brothers. He said, hell no. He said, hell no, I ain't gonna know. Because you know that was stiff. You know, they said a lot of folks that know the Steiner brothers used to be stiff, man.
Well, how about the Miracle Violence connection? Dr. Death, man. Steve Williams, and Terry Gordy.
Oh man, you know, that's another stiff crew there, man. You know, I used to you talk about stables I used to hate as a kid. I used to hate them, man. I used to hate them, and I used to hate Zabisco and R. Anderson, man. The lethal enforcers, because they would fucking never lose. They rarely lost. I think they only started losing because they got old. That was the only reason why they lost. They would never lose. I used to hate seeing them red and white stripes, them tights coming out into the ring, man. Hate that shit. Yeah. The Spine Buster is another one that's overused.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Hey, so let me ask y'all a question, man. Between Arn Anderson and Ron Simmons, who had the most vicious spine?
Ron. Arn Anderson had the best technique of the spine buster.
Yeah, he had like
Ron pick you up and just throw you down like a piece of meat.
Yeah. He
right.
Just, boom, you know. Arn Anderson had like an artistic flow to it. Boom,
yeah.
You know.
He picks you up, turn you around, boom.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, Ron Simmons, man. You coming in the middle of the ring with the Acolyte, especially when the Acolytes first got together. And just come in and bam, you like shit, you know. And you see that damn clothesline from hell, and you see the cat do a half gainer, and then that's it. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that you know, watching guys like that. That was another thing that I used to like, man, is that when guys would come in, they would come in and they would bring the pain, so that set the tone for them as a tag team. What was that tag team in WCW? It was old boy, was it Adam Bomb and what was that dude's name? What was it? Chronic. Chronic would come into the ring, do it and just completely blow somebody up, and then that's it. Or I use what you call it, Scott Norton. Scott Norton was a classic example of somebody coming to the ring and bring the pain on somebody. To this day, I still think the cat still feel that ass whooping. You got some Scott Norton on Monday Night Football. Y'all remember that ass whooping? I thought to this day, I think he still feel that ass whooping Scott Norton gave him, man. You just don't see big guys that come in like that, man, and dominate. You know, that's another thing that you don't see a lot of, man. You don't see guys come in that look like professional wrestlers come in and actually do some shit. You know, you get guys that come into the ring with protective vests, looking like they're out of a movie, and they do this move where they jump across the screen and punch somebody with their fucking hand. And I'm talking about Roman Reigns for y'all who try to figure out what I'm talking about.
Hey man, before Roman Reigns, man, we all know who originated the protective vest, and that was D'Lo Brown.
That's right.
Yeah,
And Sevens, he fucked his chest up and walked out with the chest protector.
Yeah, he also started the botch, the master of the botch. But you know, a lot of these guys, man, they don't have these. Like I said, you got a big guy like Bray Wyatt comes in, who looks the part. He's a heavyweight guy. He's a legit dude. Oh, what's this other Braun Strowman? Braun Strowman. You get this guy Braun Strowman. You build this dude up. This dude moving cars and shit. Has he ever won a world title? Sean, has he ever won a world title yet? He still has not won a world title yet.
Didn't he win it this year only to have Roman take it or something like that?
Because I know Brock and them probably watching. Has Braun Strowman won the world heavyweight title yet? Can anybody confirm that for me in the chat?
I mean, if you want to consider that the universal title, if you want to consider the universal title a fucking world title, then
hey Jeff, how long did he hold that belt? I want to know how long he held that belt. How long did he hold the belt? I'm going to wait for the reaction. I want to see how long he held this belt, because this is going to tell you exactly what I'm talking about right here. A guy like that back in the day would have won that belt and held that belt for 4 years easily. If Lex Luger can hold that belt that long,
that difference.
Y'all remember that run Lex Luger was on in the early 90s, from about 1991 all the way to almost down to 93, where he was.
He left by 91. I mean 92. When he lost about the Sting.
This thing, yeah. So from 90 all the way up to about 90, late 90, going in 92, he was another one. I was like, fuck.
Lex Luger had the longest reigning United States Championship. When he held the U.S. belt, I think he held that belt forever.
I mean, here we go. See that? Strowman was a placeholder to get the belt off Goldberg, which he shouldn't have never had the belt. Goldberg shouldn't even been wrestling. He should be going home watching Georgia. Like I got the game on right now. He
shouldn't have been put back in the ring after that travesty against The Undertaker.
Yeah. You got, oh man, you talk about that shit over in Saudi Arabia. Just what you talking about. And then eventually give it to the Fiend and then Roman. Once again, we go all the way back. Even in heel mode, this fucking Roman Reigns is still getting the belt, man.
Yep.
I mean, even in heel mode, this dude cannot keep his hands off the belt. I'm telling you, man, the dude is the new. I told TC, who I wish I could have got him on tonight. This dude is the new John Cena. This is Cena Mark II of the highest quality, man. This dude here is a Cena on Cena level. If there's anybody else's level, man, never mind, man. Before I even go there, I'm about to go there, man. But I'm telling you, man, this is why.
You're right, though. They did. You know, think about it. When Roman Reigns made his appearance. He was in a tag team or in a triple team or whatever, and then they groomed him.
Yeah.
You know, they groomed him to move him up, and every once in a while he'll fall back, and then he'll come up again, and now he's on that path to be the next superstar for wrestling, to be the new face.
He been on that path though for the past 5 or 6 years, man, and he ain't made it yet. Like people, I mean, a lot of folks. I mean, Roman Reigns. I'm sorry, he does not have it to me. I mean, the dude, they as much as they try to get him up to the status of his cousin, which is The Rock,
right?
He just does not have it, man. I mean, it's like you watch wrestling, I mean, especially if you watched it for years. And you could typically tell, man, when a person has that it factor, they just have it. You know, there are certain situations and circumstances where a person can be quote unquote groomed to become a champion, and people, you know, love them or, you know, disdain or whatever the situation is. But Roman Reigns he's been trying, man, for the past however long they've been having him a singles wrestler, and it ain't worked. It's not worked. You look at him compared to Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan came in there, man, and people just clung to him like, you know, butt on grits and stuff. And it's like, okay, we got something. And the WWE didn't expect that. But they
See,
had
they messed up. What got the fans truly on his side was when they had Sheamus squash him in like 10 seconds. And the fans knew that was bullshit because they knew how great Daniel was in the ring. Even if he played the chicken shit heel, they know he could deliver a 4 or 5 star match in the ring with Sheamus, which they did the following month. But they did not expect the fans to just completely shit on him and chant Daniel Bryan's name and to do the yes chant all throughout WrestleMania and all throughout the Monday Night Raw that followed it. So now they had no choice but to finally give him props, and even when they did, they still fucked with him.
I'm gonna look at the camera on this. Okay, I want y'all to see that. I'm gonna look right here in this camera, right down the pipe. And I'm gonna tell you, Vince McMahon, when you talk about guys that Vince McMahon ruined, Vince McMahon fucking blew it with Muhammad Hassan. He probably would have been one of the greatest heels of all time. He had natural fucking people hated him. He could wrestle. He looked good. He had all the intangibles. I know the whole 9/11 thing happened, man, but I've seen them do stupider shit since then, and they still stick with these dudes. They ride them out, you know. But then when it come down to McMahon and he has a wrestler in his hand, he doesn't know what to do. I'll give you another one. Y'all remember Maven? You know, that's the dude they could have groomed him to be the next Rock. You know, look good. Came up through their own program. Came up right up through their own program. What was it? Tough Enough. Came right on up through it, you know. And then they chucked him out. Now he coaching high school football somewhere in Jones County. You know, I'm telling you, they had these dudes, man, and then they don't know what to do with them. You know, guys get hot on them and they don't know what to do. Well, hey, TC used to have this one saying. He said, whenever somebody get big, he said, break glass and get Mark Henry to fight him. He said, because every time you look up, somebody's win some. Let's go find Mark Henry and put him in the ring with the and then he'll get the belt, and then he'll drop the belt to John Cena, and then we back up. Everything is back on its normal path. Hey, get the Infinity Stone and go get John Cena and fix it.
Right.
John Cena fix it.
Yo, shout out to Mark Henry, man. That after that whole thing with Mae Young, I was like, man, his career ruined.
He recovered. It took him about 18 years, but he recovered.
I was like, they did him dirty with that shit.
They didn't do it worse than they did Test though, because Test never recovered for that whole angle that he was in. You know,
man.
I tell you, man, and we got about 15 minutes here before we get ready to switch. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you are locked into the channel. We're gonna flip over and we're gonna do our special hall show in a little bit here with G-Man. So make sure y'all check that out. So that'll be about in 15 minutes. We're gonna flip over. So make sure that y'all are locked in and then tune into that and join us for that. We got a lot to unpack there. But before we get to that, I want to go here too. Let's get off WWF. TNA is another program, another organization. You want to talk about botching of the botch?
Yo, you know who popped up this week for the first time? Lance Hoyt posted it on Instagram and Twitter. Fucking Monty Brown. Ain't seen this man in years. And he popped up the color promo hyping up AEW and Lance Archer.
Where did he find him at?
I'm like, man, this dude still got it. He got that promo straight from the Serengeti. And I'm like, I want Monty Brown to come back. Everybody was saying, we need Monty Brown back. I want to see, he the originator of the pounce. Originator. Everybody doing pounces now, like Keith Lee and shit. Monty Brown was the one that did it, and everybody got hyped for that shit. I want the alpha male to return, because we need alpha males in this business now, man.
Hey, I'll go ahead, brother.
But he went to WWE and became Marcus Corvan. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, they watered that joker down like evaporated milk, like for real, bro. Like,
you know who I blame? I blame TNA. They fucked up with this man by continuing to push Jeff Jarrett down our throats and not give this man a championship run. Yeah. I remember I ordered that Turning Point pay-per-view hoping that Monty Brown win the belt because I was sick of Jeff Jarrett. Like, this man ain't never drew a dime.
Jeff Jarrett is the shit stain in some man's underwear right now. I'm telling you, man, that dude there, bro, every time you look up, he winning that fucking belt. It's either him or it's Kurt Angle. It's one of the two. It needs to drive me up the wall. All that talent they had over in TNA. TNA in from 2005 to about 2011 was the best shit you could watch on TV. And then they just went straight, let's go find the oldest wrestler we could find. They went and got Vince Russo. No, not Vince Russo. They went and got Bischoff and Hogan. And I knew immediately when they got Bischoff and Hogan, I said, this is it. They are done as done can get, because we already know what's going to happen here. They come in there. We make Jeff Hardy heel. Okay, I can vibe with that a little bit, but Jeff Hardy ruined it for himself because he couldn't stay off the white. So then that bottom went upside down. So then you bring in Sting. Sting's already there, but then you put the bet on Sting. Well, he loses to Jeff Jarrett. Then you got Samoa Joe comes in. He can never get a title shot. Then when he gets the title shot, he loses it. Then if he wins it, he'll lose it the next pay-per-view. I mean, it was just like the booking. You had tag teams over there like LAX. You had top of the line wrestlers, and they didn't know what. Sean, they had no clue. And to this day, I went to Lockdown. Was it Lockdown? Chris, was it Lockdown that came here in 2007? I think it was Lockdown.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I went to Lockdown in 2007.
2007 with that electric cage match between the Dudley Boys and whoever the fuck they were fighting.
That was the year next. That was 2008. That was 2008, 2009. 2007 was I think the main event was Christian Cage and some Cage.
No, the main event was that Lockdown match in 2007.
No, because I remember the electricity one, because I remember watching that at somebody's house, and I said, "What is this shit here?" I remember
every Lockdown pay-per-view had the lethal Lockdown, like war game style match. That's from what I remember on the earlier Lockdown.
No, it was Bound for Glory. Bound for Glory is what came. Bound for Glory is what came. The 2007 came here, and to this day, has anybody have you been to a live TNA event, Sean?
I've been to maybe one or two. It's hard to get in there. It was free.
Did you go to one of the early ones, like in the
when they first came to the Impact Zone? I went.
All right, so Chris, you ever been to one? You ever been to the TNA? All right, Al, you ever been to the TNA? All right, anybody in the chat can back me up on this. If you had a chance to go to an early TNA event, it was the best experience you ever got. It was one of the best wrestling experiences I ever got as a fan, because they put on shows and they put them on. When I used to have to compare them to WWF and back then, and I was just like, it's night and day. I was like, they've got the product, but they can't figure out how to put it on TV.
Bro, you remember Elix Skipper on the cage?
Yep. That's another cat that just Well,
WCW dropped the ball on him too, so
yeah. I mean, you look at the guys who had.
They did.
Guys who had. So I put 2020 being booked by TNA. I mean, boy, he is on the road tonight, boy. I'm telling you, man, it is, bro. I'm telling you, they have the talent, and if you're booking, what's the consensus here? Because what's the consensus here? Is that if you don't have proper booking, you're going to blow it. You've only got maybe a 3 or 4 window in today's wrestling cycle with some of you guys. Yeah. If you blow it, then that's it. And a lot of these guys, they get put in a bad program, their career can never recover from it. I mean, luckily, Bray Wyatt was able to become the Fiend and fix that shit that they did when they first started his career. But it took him, after he's been there for so long now, it took him forever to get back to that point, And you just, that's one of those things, one-offs. You don't see that too often where guys can come, and then turn around and fix everything from getting screwed up, I mean, it took Rey Mysterio after that down Long Dark. It took him down there 10 years, 10, 12 years to get himself situated to get back over there. But, with today's cycle, with everything moving so quick, you don't have that kind of time anymore. So it behooves these guys to, when you get good talent, to use it.
Another thing that hurts WWE is they got way too much shows, man. Way too much content and way too much titles. It's overexposed. Like back in the days, you had to watch Raw to see the top guys. You wasn't seeing Bret Hart wrestle on Superstars and stuff like that. He was the champ. Even in the 80s, Hogan only showed up for Saturday night's main event. And you might see a highlight package of him, but you wasn't going to see him on normal TV because he was mostly the house show guy. He was the star on the house shows. Do the house shows, show up on the big pay-per-views, show up on the big TV specials, and that's it. So you didn't see the champion as much. Nowadays, you see him all the fucking time.
Fun fact: does anybody know what title was on the line when Undertaker fought I think it was Mankind in that Hell in a Cell? Does anybody know what title was on the line that night?
It was the hardcore belt, wasn't it?
No, it was the fucking European title. That's how much a belt meant back in the day. That's how much a belt meant back in the day. A fucking European title was on the line. That shows you the value of how much a title meant back then.
It's like
These guys, they got 50 pay-per-views. They got a pay-per-view for this pay-per-view. They got an intro for that pay-per-view. They got a setup for the pay-per-view. Man, we had Royal Rumble, we had SummerSlam, we had Survivor Series, and am I missing anything in there, y'all?
WrestleMania and when they had King of the Ring and botched that.
Survivor Series.
What was that, Al?
Survivor Series.
Yeah, I said Survivor. So it was 4.
It was 4, and then they added King of the Ring. And my biggest disappointment with King of the Ring is they ain't treated like a true tournament. You know, it was just, you throw out a couple matches here or there, and then you have a main event title match. But the King of the Ring was so poorly booked sometimes. They struck gold with Owen Hart, Austin, and maybe Triple H. But a lot of them was just mediocre King of the Ring winners. And the pay-per-view as a whole it felt so shoestrung. You know, like the tournament should have felt important. Like when you look at Japan and their tournaments feel special and important. You want to watch their tournaments.
You remember when TNA had that tag team title tournament some years ago, and they brought in guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they brought them in. That felt like old. Remember Bash at the Beach? Not Bash at the Beach, but Great American Bash.
And the Jim Crockett Cup too.
Yeah, the Jim Crockett Cup. Yep. And where they had all those tag teams.
I used to like when TNA did the World Cup or the X Cup.
Yeah,
the X Division.
Yeah. Now it's basically, hey, everybody gets a title. Hey, you not feeling good today, man? You're not happy? Oh, well, let's
you can have a title.
You have a world title, man. And then
highlight Vigilante.
And then Brock.
I mean, there you go. Hey, man, belts in WWF like prizes like pro. Hey, you want a title for you? You want one? Here's 2 for you too. Hey, man, you want one too? Hey, man, my kid wants a proton pack, man. Hey, man, the world title is not a toy. The world title is not a toy. This is how you have to tell him, man.
It's like I said when I knew we'd eventually get here. When it comes to how many belts there are, I was just looking up. So there's a slight dispute, but it's between 9 and like 16, depending on whether or not you count some of the old WWE, F belts as opposed to counting WWE. But there's basically like 9 championship belts. But again, I knew belts stopped having any kind of meaning when they introduced the 24-hour championship belt.
Well, you know what, Chris?
You remember that one?
The 24-hour title back when they introduced it was pretty cool. You gotta get into it. But then
that shit was comical, bro. It wasn't even cool when they first announced it. They pretty much took the hardcore title concept of that 24-hour title defense and just made it this 24/7 championship.
Right.
But it was just for cheap wins, man. Like anybody could win that, and I'm like, nah, man, that's a comical title.
You in the middle of cutting a promo, and some dude come in and drop a DDT on you, and a ref comes out of nowhere and gets that 1, 2, 3 on you, and now you done lost the belt.
Hey man, I used to like when Hurricane Helms was winning that shit, man. That shit was hilarious. You flying, you hear that wind, whoosh, and you get the 1, 2, 3. But then too, you turn around, he get the shit knocked out of him by somebody, by Andrew.
And then he lose the belt.
He lost the belt, yeah.
Well, better yet, when Crash Holly introduced the damn rule. That was they were putting his ass in fucking Discovery, the playpens and all that shit.
Discovery Zone. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, man. But like you said, you look up now, man. The belts don't even look like world title. Hold that belt up you had, Al. Hold that belt up, man. Look at that, man. Sure. Man, what? That's a world title.
That's the belt. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's a world championship belt.
Hey,
WWE
Anybody got an
champion.
NWA belt right here?
I don't.
The real world title belt.
Hey, man, I'm gonna tell you something. Like to me, I'm gonna get one day. But that darn WCW belt, but that heavyweight champion belt, that's the epitome of a championship belt to me, bro. But to go back to something that Sean said, man, I totally agree. That was one of my biggest gripes, man, with WWE and with WCW at one point, man. They had too many pay-per-views, man. It's like they didn't really give time for stories to build. And they were looking at making a quick buck, man, just because they gonna throw a match on pay-per-view. I can remember back in the days, man, when you only had like Royal Rumble and Wrestlemania, you had so much time to build up storylines and story arcs and feuds. When they finally got on that pay-per-view, it actually meant something.
Yep.
But nowadays, man, okay, Bray Wyatt about to fight his daddy because they fell out because they was at Golden Corral, and Mike Rotunda got the last biscuit. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, the next month he fighting Bear Windham because Bear Windham took the last glass of sweet tea out of the refrigerator. You know what I mean? It's like it's just this stupid stuff that they feud over, man. And to me, none of it has any meaning. Like I just felt, I'm kind of like you when it comes down to pro wrestling, man, and I hate it because I've been watching wrestling since I was a kid. But
You know what feud just burnt out so quickly? John Cena versus Randy fucking Orton.
Man,
They fought so many times in the span of 3 years that I was like, I'm sick of this fucking feud, man. Like back in the days, you had feuds that lasted for years. And they only had minimum TV and minimum pay-per-views, but yet they can drag it out. I mean, how many years has Tito Santana and the model Rick Martel feuded?
Oh, yeah, man, years.
man.
Years.
shoot, go back further than that, man. Back in the day, the NWA days, man, when Harley Race feuded with Dusty Rhodes, man, and Ric Flair feuded with Dusty Rhodes. I mean,
Harley Race feuded with Ric Flair.
That back then they didn't have pay-per-view. They had closed circuit TV.
Right.
It wasn't even on a particular venue to where you could pay for it. Like you had to have like a big, huge NASA satellite in your front yard to get the actual event that came on, man. So
you had to go turn the coordinates. Coordinates of 104, 55.
And you know what was a great modern feud that lasted a whole year? It was Kevin Steen and El Generico in Ring of Honor. Started that final battle in 2009, ended final battle 2010, and they only had 3 matches throughout that whole year. 3 matches. While John Cena and Randy Orton had 3 matches in 3 fucking months.
I mean, that's it.
You got to figure they do every month. They do 1 to 2 pay-per-view events. So you're looking at 12 to 24 in a year. You're looking at 12 to 24 pay-per-view events. So they're giving them 3 weeks, month tops to build a story and a feud that gets answered at the pay-per-view, because they look at it as seasons now, just like television shows. That's how they look at each wrestling event when they have they story arcs and stuff. But you're right, Sean. It used to be there are people who still feuding from back in the day in wrestling. They see each other in the Kroger parking lot. They might be geriatrics, but they gonna go at it. Like they still feuding.
Steve Austin fighting that grocery store.
Right. It's going down on the bread aisle. Like it's going down. That's just what's gonna happen.
All right, so BB says there are modern champs that are already forgotten or will be forgotten, while old school wrestlers who never held a belt will still be legends decades from now. And I'm gonna say this in closing. And I have always held this, that it was an absolute disgrace that Lord Steven Regal never held the title, never held the world title. He was probably one of the best technical wrestlers that ever came through WCW at one stage, and he never held a belt. And I hold him in more regard than these guys today. And I'm gonna say this: that 16 title shit that they tell me about John Cena, I don't even recognize that shit. He is not a 16-time world heavyweight champion. The fact that Ric Flair wrestled for 30, 40 years and has only held that belt 16 times holds more weight to me than somebody that's only been in WWF, been in wrestling for 15 years, 15, 20 years, and now he's 16-time world champion. That doesn't even make any mathematical sense. That he can go from getting in wrestling in 2003 to surpass what somebody was doing 20 years before he even got there. That don't even make any mathematical sense to me. So that's why I said I'm not even going to acknowledge that bullshit. Because if we're going to use that kind of lunacy, then Shawn Michaels should have held that title 14, 15 times. Then you got Hart should have held that title 14, 15 times. Mr. Perfect could have had about a 6-time run in there. Hogan should have had it 26 times if we're going by that logic. He should have had the belt 30, 40, 50 times. 50 times world heavyweight champion.
See, Hogan don't want to do that because then that means he lost about 25 times.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you look at guys like John Cena, and then they try to spoon feed me this bullshit about John Cena is a legit wrestler, and John Cena was chosen handpicked by Vince McMahon to be his poster child for his wrestling organization. And like y'all said, they put him in all these programs, and he's just over and over and over. Whereas Ric Flair gained his title runs over a period of time, and he doesn't even recognize his titles when he was winning them in those other territories. He win them and then drop them and go back to NWA or whatever. It wouldn't even acknowledge it. So Ric Flair has held his title on way more stages than what he's been held on TV. But I'll never recognize that John Cena shit.
And you know what was the telling part? I'm gonna end with this about John Cena is when he had that little feud with Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan was criticizing him because he wasn't the true wrestler. That if WWE would have shut down, Daniel's going to go to the independent scene and wrestle because he loves wrestling. And Cena said if WWE shut down, he retired. That tells you he don't love wrestling. Right. He only loves WWE.
Yep. Period.
That's it. Daniel Bryan loves wrestling, that he'll go around the world and wrestle like he did when he was in Ring of Honor. That man was worldwide. Wrestled in Europe, wrestled in Japan, wrestled down in Africa and all over the country. John Cena only wrestled all over the country for the WWE. He never wrestled outside those guys in other promotions.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, we're going to shut this one down. We'll definitely be doing this again. So you might as well just go ahead and book it, just like our hip hop series over there on Mustafa. Over there, we'll be doing this again. So, we couldn't get the full pound long. I wanted Larry to come on and Shawn Michaels everything, but we'll get him on next go one. So, all right. So this is the game plan. We're gonna take a little bit of a break, get everything situated, everybody get their halls and stuff in order, and then we're gonna come back in a little bit, and we're gonna do our halls with G-Man, who is in the chat. Shout out to G-Man for these excellent AOKs, man. Bro, it blew my fucking mind this week. I'll just say that. Blew my fucking mind. I cannot wait to show y'all this book that I got. Go ahead, Al.
I'm telling y'all now, if y'all show back up, I ain't open mind. So if it's something in there, hold up, let me say this. If it's something in there that touched my heart and spirit, y'all might see some water come out my eyes. I am a man.
All right, so we're going to be back in a little bit. We're going to go ahead and get ready to shut this one down, and we'll be back shortly. So make sure y'all stay locked in here on the Comment Hall and Roundtable discussion. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Peace.